Welcome to Algebra 2, Unit 4 review. Question 1, the solution set for the equation is, okay, so this is a radical equation, and the opposite of a radical is to square it. So the first thing we want to make sure is that our radical is isolated on one side of the equal sign, which it is. So we're going to go ahead and square it. And squaring it doesn't do anything to the inside. It really just is the opposite operation. So we're just left with what's underneath. Okay, now on the right side, we have to do the same thing. So there's our x squared. Now I have no like terms, so I want everything on one side. And my x squared is going to be my line leader. I want that one to be positive. So let's do the opposite and do plus x. Let's do the opposite and do minus 56. Okay, these are not like terms, so I'm just going to kind of throw them behind the x squared, and here is my equation. Okay, from here, now I can actually factor. Drop the first sign, positive and negative is a negative. I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to 56. I can do 56 times 1. I could do 8 times 7, which I know is correct because 8 minus 7 is that 1. Okay, now looking at this briefly, it looks like the answer is negative 8 and 7, which is choice 1, but guess what? We have to check these. One of these does not work. And if you looked at my other review sheet, I gave you a little trick where if you go ahead and put the left side into your y equals and the right side into your y equals, you'll actually be able to tell what the answer is. So let's go to my calculator. Okay, there's my left side, there's my right side. When I go to my table, I see it right there. 7 has the same y values, so therefore 7 is the correct answer. And there it is. Okay, question number 2. This is the quadratic formula. We're going to solve this equation, and one of the reasons why I know it's the quadratic formula is because it has a plus bi form. Okay, so this formula is given to you on the reference sheet, so you will not get any credit if you write it, but let's go ahead and write it anyway. X equals negative b plus and minus b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now, you will get a point, though, if you substitute in all the values correctly. So a is going to be the first number. That's called your leading coefficient. B is the second number, and C is the third number. And just make sure that if there's any minus signs, that those become negatives. All right, so x equals negative 5. Plus and minus 5 squared minus 4 times A times C all over 2 times 2. All right, now, I like to call this 3 pieces. Okay, my first piece is here. I'm going to leave that as is. The second piece is underneath the radical, and the third piece is whatever is in the denominator. So piece 1, let's leave it. Piece 2, I'm going to have to put into my calculator exactly the way that I see it. So 5 squared minus 4 times 2 times 8, and I'm going to get negative 39. All over 4. Okay, now 2 things here. This negative does not exist, so we're going to pull it out and we're going to make it an I. Okay, and then lastly, a plus bi form means that we want to separate a that has no I, we call that a real number, and the second term, which has the I, the imaginary. So my final answer here is going to be negative 5 over 4, okay, plus and minus, there's that I, okay, there's that 39, and we're going to put a 4 there, okay, and just so you know, sometimes they like to put a 1 in front of the I, so sometimes it might look like this if this is a multiple choice answer, but you don't have to write it like that. Okay, and then our last question here, equivalent. I did show you that you can use your calculator for this, but if we are going to do it the long way, we're going to have to actually multiply. Okay, so let's multiply our numbers first. 6 times negative 4. Negative 24. Okay, now let's multiply our x's. I have an x and an x. That's going to become an x squared. And then lastly, I have I to the third and an I. Whenever you multiply x's or i's, you always add them. Okay, plus the only number I'm really multiplying here is the 5. So 6 times 5 is 30. And then I'm going to keep the x and I'm going to keep the I to the third. Now the reason why I don't see any of this is because we don't like i's, so we like to change them. Okay, so I to the fourth is 1 and I to the third is negative I. Now how do I know that? Because I'm a math teacher, but if you were unsure, your calculator does i's. It's the decimal. So I to the fourth is just 1, and I to the third is negative I. Be careful, it's not minus I, it's negative I. So if we put this all together, okay, this 1 I kind of really don't need anymore because it's just 1. Okay, and this negative is really just going to change that to a minus sign. Okay, and I still have the I. So what you'll notice is that 2 is the right answer, and if I were you, I would just double check that this is equivalent to this. Thank you for joining.